Welcome to the Thrive Business Mentorship Podcast with your host, Samuel Robinson, and this week's guest, Daniel Medina. Hey, Daniel, thank you so much for joining us here today. It's really a privilege to have you on our Thrive Business Mentorship Podcast. Guys, you can check out Thrive on Apple, Google Podcast, and many, many more. And so, Daniel, again, thank you, my friend, for being with us. Can you give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself and also what kind of business you're in?
Sammy, it's always amazing and fun to be a part of anything you're involved with. I appreciate the opportunity to speak and share with your group.
Oh, thank you.
So a little background. I started my career actually as a public relations major. Went to the University of Florida, graduated when I was 19. So prior to that, I was a high school dropout. So my story's pretty long, but I'll give you a condensed version. When I was about 15 years old, I just kind of felt leading to leave high school and start and go to college. So I told my mom, I said, hey, I really don't feel like I'm getting any benefit from being in school anymore. So I dropped out, started my own business, and built that up, sold it to a guy who I had a car detailing business, and I sold my accounts to this guy who had a bigger business. And then I went to community college and went there for 2 years, transferred to NYU, and transferred out of there to University of Florida. Got a degree in public relations, and I moved to Boca Raton, Florida with a group of guys to plant a church.
Wow.
And that's kind of how I started my career and out of college. And at that point, I was thinking, like, what am I going to do with my life? I love ministry. I have a passion for people and souls. But at the time, we had like 5 people in our church, and there was no way to generate enough money for me to be on staff.
For sure.
And I was young. So I got 3 jobs and started working. I had a job at Kinko's, and I had another job at another place, and then I did real estate during the day. So I was, I had these crazy hours, and I figured I was young. I could work as long as I needed to work to get by and build enough capital to start trying to do some deals. So I was, living in a. I met this guy when I was interviewing for a job. I don't know if this is too much information, but
no, this is great.
I met this guy when I was interviewing for a job, and I had no place to live at the time. So he said, "Hey, just come move in with me and move on to my couch." I would never recommend doing that, but I wound up moving on this random guy I met in a job interview couch, and lived there until I built up enough money to get my own place.
Wow.
And, started doing real estate, and he loaned me some money to take some classes on how to do creative real estate, and he loaned me $3,000, and I took a course and did that for a week, and that's how I kind of got into the real estate. And the reason I got into real estate was I was thinking while we were building this church, what kind of business can I do to generate enough income where it would, or what type of business has generated more millionaires than any other business in history, and it was always real estate.
Wow.
And when I was a kid, I always had a passion for architecture, design, and I loved looking at property, so it was a perfect fit for me. So that's how I jumped into real estate at 19 years old.
Wow, Daniel, this is okay.
Doing it ever since.
Daniel, I have to say this to all of our viewers here, is that I love that you started by planting a church. and Daniel, I love this about God so often. The Bible says that the mind of man plans his ways, but the Lord directs his steps. And I just love the process of you figuring out, what you're passionate about. And there's many of our viewers here today that are on that incredible journey. Now, I love what you said, you don't want to be sleeping on your some stranger's couch here. But I will say this, Daniel, I love how, I believe God's hand has been on your life and how he's led you and guided you. Daniel, I was going to ask you this question. With the season that we're in right now, there's so much stuff that's going on with COVID. As you know, we've been in it for the last year, and it's been a difficult season. I think there's lots that we have learned in this time. There's been lots of transition, and there's a lot of people that maybe have experienced loss in business. And this is some of the things I've talked to you about that you have an incredible story of, if I could say, reconciliation or restoration. And I believe there's a lot of viewers that are listening to this that need the hope that God can restore, and that maybe that where they've experienced loss, that it's not the end for them. Daniel, is it possible for you to share part of your story of how God helped you in a time of loss and how you saw restoration in that?
Sure. Sammy, a lot of things that we go through in life, sometimes we start strong, but then we fall, and we don't, and we hopefully finish strong. But my story was, I started strong, and I was strong in the faith when I moved down, started church, did all that, and I built my entire business on faith.
Wow.
Because I had zero money, and I had literally no money and I was doing deals and putting them together with the not even understanding how I would raise the capital or put the deal together, but I just knew if I found the right opportunities and the capital would follow.
Come on.
And I just believed that. And I put together some pretty amazing, massive deals, raised over $100 million by 24. I was in the thick of it.
Wow.
And during that time, I started to focus more on business than the Lord. And I built a pretty massive empire. I had, trying to count in my head, but I had probably over 600 units under development.
Wow.
I had condos all over the country. I had projects, just a massive amount of real estate, and got into a lot of debt. I had a 700-room hotel. I had all kinds of stuff, different types of asset classes, and I started, in my heart, no one noticed it because you know me, I'm not that type of person.
Yeah.
But inwardly, I could tell that I had pride starting to build up, and I realized that I started feeling like, hey, I'm something, I'm somebody now, and part of that was a lot of brokenness I experienced as a child because
Wow.
I grew up in a very broken home. My dad was a drug addict and alcoholic, and we had cops at our house every night. It was a crazy upbringing, we grew up poor. So I promised myself I'd never be poor.
Wow.
And so when I started attaining success, I felt like I started to identify with that success, and that became who, instead of God being my identity, I started identifying, saying, okay, this is who I am. I'm successful, and people see me and they recognize me, and I'm validated because of my success, and so that and that's all pride.
Wow.
So all that built up in my heart, and so 2008 came around, and the world was a different place, and I literally lost everything, went down to nothing. My car got repoed.
Whoa,
My
whoa,
house
whoa.
was in foreclosure.
Time, Daniel. Your
the
car,
hotels.
Daniel, your car got repoed. Your house went into foreclosure. Like, I just have to stop right there. What was going through your head when all of this happened? Because you've been experiencing high levels of success. Many people would look at you and be like, wow, you're a young guy that is crushing it in the real estate world. And like you were saying before, you kind of get addicted to success. Pride starts to build in your heart. What were those emotions? Like, what can you kind of lead us through that I know, that's always a difficult process, but what happened in that moment? Like, how did you feel? What was going through your head in that time? Because that's intense. I don't know a lot of people that have gone through that huge of a swing. Can you kind of give us a little bit of a snapshot of that scenario?
Yeah, no, I mean, I just had a baby too, so
Oh,
it was,
wow.
I had kids, and it was a very difficult time. You know, I was just, I realized, you know, the first thing that hit my head, the thought that hit my head was, I literally lost focus of what I was, of God. I just completely lost focus of the purpose and the gift and the calling that He's put on my life, and I
Wow.
allowed all this other stuff and the busyness of life to occupy me, because I was working till 1, 2 in the morning nonstop, and I just got so busy with all these deals and people calling and investors and putting things together. It was nonstop. You know, I was, you know, traveling all over the world at the time, back and forth to Ireland, and just, you know, so it was pretty intense time. So when it all came crashing down, I'm like, God, you know, I screwed up. I completely lost touch with what matters most in life, and it broke me. And
Wow.
I was like, you know what? I don't want it. It wasn't worth it. I lost all those years with my wife and my kids, and the 3 weeks of traveling, a month, just everything. Like, you know what? Just wasn't worth it to build it all up and then lose it in an instant. And that's just how life is. You know,
Daniel,
things that we focus on.
if I just want to say this too, Daniel, you know, Jesus said something very powerful. You know, He said, you know, pity the man that gains the whole world but loses his soul. Would you say that's something that you felt like the Lord actually rescued you from, the trappings of success, the sometimes the trappings of, like, you know, some of the glitter that's in this world? I know when you're talking here, honestly, I'm feeling the fear of the Lord. Like, it's strong in our studio right now. And I feel like sometimes we think the struggle is to get successful. But would you actually say, Daniel, with now hindsight 2020 of everything that you've experienced, would you say that the actual struggle is not allowing success to dictate your life? Like, if you looked at, like, from the point of where you started to the point of where you became successful and these things started to happen, would you say the hardest thing is to keep balance and keep priorities straight in the midst of success?
Oh, yeah. And I think that's the biggest lesson I learned.
Wow.
That, you know, seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness,
Come on.
and all these other things will be added to you. And that's how I started, but I didn't finish that way. Or I winded up falling because of, I let that part of my life
Wow.
go.
Wow.
And, you know, I played church, and I knew all the lingo, and I knew everything to say,
Wow.
and I knew how to act. But in my heart, I was driven by other things. You know, fear of poverty, fear of all the brokenness from my childhood came out, and all in my business dealings.
Wow.
It wasn't so much that it was not dishonesty; it was just drivenness.
Wow.
And so afraid to lose everything. But the very thing I was afraid of, I got. So, you know, so it was a very humbling and a difficult season in my life.
So how did you come out of that?
Season I've ever gone through.
So
It was the best thing that ever happened to me. I went back to said, Lord, you know, it's all about you. This other stuff is meaningless. I mean, I've had it all. I built it all from nothing, and you know, and it got me nowhere because you weren't in it. You
Wow.
weren't in the beginning, but then I let you go. And He always, I knew early on when the success started, I always felt, there was times when I would wake up in the middle of the night, and the Lord would speak to me and say, and tell me, are you for me or against me? What are you living for? And I would wake up in cold sweats, and I knew the Lord was speaking to me, trying to pull me back, and He would do whatever it took to get me back.
Wow.
And it's just something that's just, you know, it's just the love of God. Doesn't matter what we lose here on this earth. It's our souls that are more important to Him, and the mindsets that we have here and how we manage success and everything that we do, that we honor God. And
Come
so
on.
I went back to my roots, and I said, you know, I'm ready to do it your way, God. I'm sorry, and I repent. I turned away from my wickedness and went back to Him and said, you know, whatever it takes to bring bring things back into order.
Wow.
So I started with him. Then I went to my family and rebuilt my family and then started to create a balance in my life with business and family and focus back on kingdom stuff. And whether I made money or not, I was after God. I didn't ever want to go back to that season again, because it's just lonely without him.
Come on.
I would travel the world and I was just empty and lonely. And I would do my 2-second prayers just to hope that if something happened to me, I would get into heaven. But that's no way to live the kingdom life.
Wow. Daniel, this is absolutely incredible. I just know this, hearing your story, and I know there's many listeners that probably can relate to this, that again, you can, it's amazing to see how when you lost everything, you actually gained everything back, like the real gain, and in your relationship with the Lord. And I'm just, to be honest, bro, I'm struggling with my words because I'm getting a little emotional here as you're talking, just because it's so easy to lose priority in life. It's so easy to think that goal in front of you, and like you're saying, especially if you're driven, it's very easy to have these goals and think, if I can just get here, everything's going to be okay. If I just get here, I'll be fulfilled. But the truth is, we know that the only thing that can truly fulfill us is our relationship with the Lord. And so, Daniel, I love this, man. I love how God restored you and how that's not even the end of your story. I know that God, has done incredible things with you now, and what you're into now is absolutely amazing with all I almost feel like God brought you through a Job process, and I feel like he's blessed you even double in this season. But the greatest thing is that, knowing our relationship, just your heart with the Lord, man. So this is so inspiring. My prayer for those that are listening and watching today is that this would be just a remembrance that at the end of the day, it really is your walk with the Lord that truly matters. It's not the success. You don't want to just gain success on earth, friends. You want to make sure that you're walking with God every day, and that you're, it's not, again, I've heard this saying all the time. It's not about being known on earth, but are you known in heaven? And now, Daniel, just every friend that we bring on our podcast, we always ask for one thing, just a practical piece of wisdom in the area of their expertise. Daniel, I know that you do a lot of real estate and a lot of high-level real estate. Could you give for our viewers today as well, and thank you so much for your 20 minutes here, my friend. I don't want to take too much more time, but could you give us just a practical piece of wisdom for those that are either getting into the real estate world or are in the real estate world? Is there something that you could just share really quickly with them that could be a blessing for them moving forwards?
Yeah, first, may sound very different, but I try to run everything that I do in the fear of the Lord. I think that is the most important thing, that we have to pray and seek the Lord and make sure that we have the fear of the Lord in our hearts.
Wow.
Because I think that is really the foundation of success in business, because that will, if we have the fear of the Lord, we'll honor our business partners, and we'll always do the right thing at all costs. Wow. And I think that's the most important thing.
That's amazing.
And second, we really got to know whatever business we're in, whether it's real estate or healthcare. I've been involved in technology, healthcare. I've been involved in real estate development, all kinds of different industries. We just have to know our industry and know it well, or surround ourselves with the best, brightest people. If we don't know exactly what we're doing, then get mentors and surround ourselves with people who know and have been there and been in that field and has had success in that field. And I think that's the most practical knowledge that somebody needs to succeed in whatever they're trying to do. Because I've had some great mentors, and I've come alongside some incredible business partners that I've had that have challenged me and helped me grow, and it's always a blessing to have that. And that's I think those are two of the most practical pieces of advice I can give.
All right, Daniel, I want to thank you so much for your time here. That piece of advice was absolutely fantastic, friends. I want to encourage you again. Please, for those that are listening and watching, I really feel like you need to listen to this a couple of times. This has been so good. Probably one of my favorite podcasts that we have done. And so with that, Daniel, thank you, my friend. Thank you for taking the time with us. We so appreciate you. We can't wait to have you back on again at some point. And so, guys, thank you for being with us, and we look forward to seeing you again. God bless. Thank you for listening to this week's podcast. Thrive Podcast is produced by Voice of Revival Ministries. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and other social media platforms. Visit voiceofrevival.ca/thrive for other connecting opportunities. Music produced and performed by Corey Mullen.